The galaxy had been at war for decades. The Krell, a ruthless alien species, had expanded their empire across star systems, leaving destruction in their wake. Humanity, though late to the interstellar stage, had risen quickly, driven by their unyielding spirit and technological ingenuity. The Krell had underestimated them, dismissing humans as weak and disorganized, but humanity had proven them wrong, time and time again. Now, after years of brutal conflict, the Krell had finally agreed to peace talks. The galaxy held its breath, hoping for an end to the bloodshed. The negotiations were set to take place on a neutral space station orbiting a dying star. The station, a massive structure of cold metal and flickering lights, floated silently in the void. Both sides had agreed to bring a small escort fleet, a show of strength, but not enough to provoke an all-out battle. The Krell arrived first, their sleek, angular ships gliding into position around the station. Their vessels were dark, almost invisible against the blackness of space, their surfaces reflecting the faint glow of the distant star. The human fleet arrived shortly after. Their ships were bulkier, less elegant, but no less intimidating. The flagship, the UNS Resolute, led the formation. Its hull was scarred from countless battles, but it still carried an air of unshakable authority. The humans had come with their best diplomats, their most seasoned commanders, and a glimmer of hope that peace might finally be within reach. The Krell delegation boarded the station first, their tall, insect-like forms moving with precision. Their exoskeletons gleamed under the artificial lights, and their multiple eyes scanned the surroundings with cold calculation. The humans followed, their movements deliberate and cautious. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of years of war hanging heavy in the air. 4 hours. The negotiations dragged on. The Krell demanded concessions, entire star systems, resources, and the dismantling of human defenses. The humans pushed back, unwilling to surrender what they had fought so hard to protect. The talks grew heated, but neither side was willing to walk away. The galaxy was watching, and the stakes were too high. Then, without warning, everything changed. The Krell fleet, which had been holding position around the station, suddenly moved. Their ships powered up their weapons and began to advance. The humans, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. The UNS Resolute issued a flurry of orders, its crew working frantically to prepare for the inevitable. But it was too late. The Krell opened fire. The first barrage struck the human fleet with devastating force. Explosions lit up the darkness as ships were torn apart. The station itself shook under the impact, its systems flickering and failing. The Krell had betrayed them. The peace talks had been a ruse, a trap to lure the human fleet into a vulnerable position. But the humans were not so easily defeated. The UNS Resolute surged forward, its engines roaring as it charged into the fray. Its weapons unleashed a torrent of fire, targeting the Krell ships with deadly accuracy. The human fleet, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity that stunned the Krell. They had expected the humans to falter, to retreat in the face of overwhelming odds, but humanity had never been one to back down. The battle raged on, the station caught in the crossfire. The Krell ships, though advanced, were no match for the sheer determination of the human fleet. One by one, their vessels were destroyed, their sleek forms reduced to burning wreckage. The humans pressed their advantage, their ships moving with precision and coordination. The Krell, realizing their mistake, tried to retreat, but it was too late. The human fleet had them surrounded. In the end, the Krell flagship was the last to fall. It tried to escape, its engines straining as it attempted to break free of the human blockade. But the UNS Resolute was relentless. It pursued the fleeing ship, its weapons locked on target. With a final, devastating barrage, the Krell flagship was destroyed, its remains drifting silently in the void. The battle was over. The human fleet had emerged victorious, but the cost had been high. Many ships had been lost, and the station was heavily damaged. Yet, Amidst the wreckage, there was a sense of triumph. The Krell had been dealt a crippling blow, their fleet decimated and their plans for conquest shattered. As the human fleet regrouped, the UNS Resolute transmitted a message to the galaxy. It was simple, but it carried the weight of humanity's resolve. We came in peace, but we will not be betrayed. The Krell have learned the cost of their treachery. Let this be a warning to all who would threaten humanity. We will not falter. We will not surrender. We will fight, and we will win. The message echoed across the stars, a declaration of humanity's strength and determination. The galaxy watched in awe, realizing that the humans were not just survivors, they were warriors. And in the face of betrayal, they had unleashed their fury, proving once and for all that they would not be defeated. The war was far from over, but for now, humanity had secured a hard-fought victory. The Krell would think twice before challenging them again, and as the human fleet began the long journey home, they carried with them the knowledge that they had defended their future, no matter the cost. The galaxy would remember this day, not as a day of peace, but as the day humanity stood tall and fought back. The galaxy had been at war for decades. The Krell, a highly advanced alien species, had expanded their empire across star systems, crushing anyone who stood in their way. Humanity, though late to the interstellar stage, had risen quickly. Their technology was not as refined as the Krell's, but they made up for it with sheer determination and adaptability. For years, the two species had clashed in brutal battles, neither side gaining a clear advantage. The cost of war was immense, entire planets were left barren, and billions of lives were lost on both sides. The galaxy was tired, and whispers of peace began to spread. The Krell, despite their pride, were feeling the strain. Their resources were stretched thin, and their people were growing weary of endless conflict. Humanity, too, was exhausted. The war had drained their colonies, and the constant threat of Krell fleets looming over their worlds was a heavy burden. When the Krell unexpectedly reached out with an offer for peace talks, humanity was cautious but hopeful. The message was clear: meet us in neutral space, and let us end this war. The chosen location was a desolate star system, far from any inhabited worlds. A massive space station, abandoned for centuries, was chosen as the meeting point. It was a relic of a long-forgotten civilization, its halls silent and its lights dim. The Krell arrived first, their sleek, angular ships gliding into position around the station. Their vessels were a testament to their technological prowess, their hulls shimmering with energy shields and their weapon systems humming with latent power. The Krell delegation, clad in their ornate armor, stepped onto the station with an air of superiority. They expected humanity to bow to their terms. Humanity's fleet arrived shortly after. Their ships were bulkier, less elegant, but no less formidable. The human vessels were scarred from countless battles, their hulls patched and reinforced. They carried the weight of a species that had fought tooth and nail for survival. The human delegation, dressed in simple uniforms, boarded the station with quiet determination. They carried no weapons, a sign of their commitment to peace. The stage was set for negotiations. For hours, the two sides sat across from each other in the station's grand hall. The Krell laid out their demands. Humanity would surrender several key systems, dismantle their military, and submit to Krell oversight. In return, the Krell would cease hostilities and allow humanity to exist as a vassal species. The humans listened in silence, their faces unreadable. When it was their turn to speak, they offered a counterproposal: a mutual ceasefire, the establishment of neutral zones, and a joint effort to rebuild the war-torn galaxy. The Krell delegation scoffed. They had not come to negotiate, they had come to dictate terms. As the talks dragged on, tensions grew. The Krell grew impatient, their voices rising in anger. The humans remained calm, but their eyes betrayed their frustration. Outside the station, the fleets of both species waited, their weapon systems on standby. The Krell ships, confident in their superiority, maintained a loose formation. The human fleet, however, was positioned with precision. Every ship was in its place, every weapon primed and ready. The humans had come prepared for any outcome. Then, without warning, the Krell made their move. A signal was sent from the station to their fleet, and in an instant, the Krell ships powered up their weapons and locked onto the human vessels. The Krell delegation stood, their leader declaring that humanity had one final chance to surrender. The humans, however, did not flinch. They had anticipated this. The Krell's arrogance had blinded them to the possibility that humanity might have a plan of their own. The human fleet reacted with lightning speed. Before the Krell could fire a single shot, the human ships unleashed a devastating barrage. Their weapons, though less advanced, were perfectly coordinated. Missiles streaked through the void, slamming into Krell shields and overloading them. Railgun rounds tore through hulls, and energy beams sliced through engines. The Krell fleet, caught off guard, scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The humans had studied their enemies for years, learning their tactics and exploiting their weaknesses. The Krell's superior technology was no match for humanity's ingenuity and resolve. Inside the station, the Krell delegation watched in horror as their fleet was decimated. The humans, still seated, remained calm. They had known the Krell would betray them, and they had come prepared. The station's systems, long dormant, had been secretly reactivated by human engineers. With a single command, the station's defenses came online, trapping the Krell delegation. They were now prisoners, their fate sealed. The battle outside was over in minutes. The Krell fleet, once a symbol of invincibility, was reduced to burning wreckage. The human fleet, though battered, emerged victorious. The cost had been high, but the message was clear: humanity would not be bullied or broken. They had fought for their survival, and they had won. In the days that followed, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. The Krell, humbled and weakened, had no choice but to accept humanity's terms. The war was over, not because of diplomacy, but because of humanity's unyielding spirit. The peace that followed was fragile, but it was real. Humanity had proven that they were not just survivors, they were a force to be reckoned with. The abandoned station, once a symbol of a forgotten civilization, became a monument to humanity's triumph. It stood as a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, courage and determination could change the course of history. The galaxy would never forget the day the human fleet unleashed their fury, and neither would the Krell. The aftermath of the battle was a somber yet resolute affair. The human fleet, though victorious, bore the scars of the conflict. Wreckage from both sides drifted in the cold void, a grim reminder of the cost of war. The station, once a symbol of hope for peace, now hung in orbit like a broken relic, its lights flickering weakly as emergency crews worked to stabilize its failing systems. The Krell had gambled everything on their betrayal, and they had lost. But humanity knew better than to believe this was the end. The Krell were a resilient species, and their empire spanned countless star systems. This battle had been a turning point, but the war was far from over. The UNS Resolute led the fleet back to human-controlled space, its hull battered but intact. The crew, though exhausted, moved with purpose. They had survived the Krell's treachery, but they knew this was only the beginning. Reports from the battle were already being analyzed, and the data was grim. The Krell had used the peace talks as a distraction, a ploy to weaken humanity's defenses. It had almost worked. If not for the quick thinking and unyielding resolve of the human commanders, the outcome could have been very different. As the fleet approached the nearest human outpost, the scale of the victory began to sink in. The Krell had lost an entire fleet, including their flagship. Their forces in this sector of the galaxy were crippled, and it would take them years to recover. But humanity had also paid a heavy price. Thousands of lives had been lost, and dozens of ships had been destroyed. The outpost, a sprawling complex of docks and repair bays, was soon filled with the sounds of activity as damaged ships were brought in for repairs and the wounded were rushed to medical facilities. The human commanders gathered in the outpost's war room, a large, dimly lit chamber filled with holographic displays and tactical maps. The mood was tense but determined. They knew the Krell would not take this defeat lightly. Retaliation was inevitable, and humanity needed to be ready. Plans were drawn up to fortify their defenses, to expand their fleet, and to strike back at the Krell while they were still reeling from their loss. The galaxy was vast, and the war was far from over, but humanity had proven that they could stand against the Krell and win. In the weeks that followed, the human fleet began to rebuild. New ships were constructed, their designs incorporating the lessons learned from the battle. The outpost became a hub of activity, a symbol of humanity's resilience and determination. Supplies and reinforcements poured in from across human-controlled space, and the fleet grew stronger with each passing day. The Krell, meanwhile, had gone silent. Their remaining forces had retreated to their territory, and there were no signs of an immediate counterattack. But humanity knew better than to let their guard down. The Krell were patient, and they would not forget this defeat. As the fleet prepared for the next phase of the war, a sense of unity began to spread among the human colonies. The battle had been a wake-up call, a reminder of what was at stake. The Krell had tried to destroy them, but they had failed. Humanity had faced betrayal and overwhelming odds, and they had emerged victorious. The galaxy had watched, and it had seen the strength and determination of the human spirit. The war would continue, and there would be more battles, more losses, and more sacrifices, but humanity was ready. They had proven that they could stand against the Krell, and they would do so again. The UNS Resolute, now repaired and refitted, stood at the forefront of the fleet, a symbol of humanity's resolve. The crew, though weary, carried themselves with pride. They had faced the fury of the Krell and had come out on top, and they would do so again, no matter what the future held. As the fleet prepared to depart the outpost, a final message was broadcast to all human colonies. It was a call to arms, a reminder of what they were fighting for. "We are humanity," the message declared. "We will not be broken. We will not be defeated. The Krell have seen our strength, and they will see it again. For our future, for our freedom, we will fight, and we will win." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving the outpost behind. The war was far from over, but humanity was ready. They had faced betrayal and unleashed their fury, and they would do so again. The galaxy would remember this day, not as a day of peace, but as the day humanity stood tall and fought back. And they would continue to fight, until the Krell were defeated and the galaxy was free. The galaxy had been at war for decades. The conflict between the Galactic Union and the Human Confederacy had drained resources, destroyed worlds, and cost billions of lives. Both sides were exhausted, their economies crumbling under the weight of endless battles. The Galactic Union, a coalition of alien species, had long considered humanity a lesser race, primitive and unworthy of a seat among the stars. But humanity had proven them wrong, time and time again, with their relentless ingenuity and unyielding resolve. When the Union finally proposed peace talks, it came as a surprise to everyone. The offer was broadcast across the galaxy, a call for an end to the bloodshed. The Union's High Council chose a neutral system for the negotiations, a barren stretch of space far from any inhabited world. They sent their most decorated diplomats, accompanied by a small escort fleet. As a gesture of goodwill, the humans, wary but hopeful, agreed to attend. They sent their own delegation, led by Admiral Marcus Hale, a veteran of countless battles. The human fleet, a formidable force of warships, arrived at the designated coordinates, their weapons powered down, their shields at minimal strength. They came in peace, or so they claimed. The Union fleet was already there, their sleek, silver ships gleaming under the light of a distant star. The two fleets faced each other across the void, their flagships positioned at the center. The tension was palpable, even in the vacuum of space. For a moment, it seemed as though the war might finally end. The diplomats exchanged formal greetings, their messages transmitted across the void. The Union's lead envoy, a tall, elegant being with shimmering blue skin, spoke of reconciliation and a new era of cooperation. Admiral Hale responded in kind, his voice steady, his words measured. The talks began. But something was wrong. The Union's ships, though few in number, were positioned in a perfect formation, their weapons subtly angled toward the human fleet. Their escorts, small and fast, drifted closer to the human ships, their movements too precise to be accidental. The humans noticed but said nothing, unwilling to disrupt the fragile peace. They had come too far to let paranoia ruin this chance. Then, without warning, the Union fleet opened fire. The first salvo tore through the human flagship's shields, ripping into its hull. Explosions rocked the ship, sending debris spinning into the void. The human fleet, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. Their weapons systems, powered down for the negotiations, took precious seconds to come online. By then, it was too late. The Union ships, their weapons fully charged, unleashed a devastating barrage. Plasma beams and kinetic rounds tore through the human fleet, reducing ships to molten slag. The void was filled with the screams of dying men and women, their voices cut short as their ships were obliterated. Admiral Hale's flagship, though heavily damaged, managed to raise its shields. The admiral, bloodied but unbowed, issued a single order: retaliate. The human fleet, what remained of it, surged forward. Their ships, though outnumbered, were built for war. Their weapons, though slow to activate, were devastating. The humans fought with a ferocity that stunned the Union. They targeted the Union's escorts first, their railguns punching through the smaller ships with ease. Then they turned their attention to the larger vessels, their plasma cannons carving through armor and hull alike. The Union, confident in their ambush, had underestimated the humans' resilience. They had expected a quick victory, a swift end to the war. They were wrong. The battle raged for hours, the two fleets locked in a deadly dance. The humans, though battered, refused to yield. Their ships, though outgunned, fought with a determination that bordered on madness. They targeted the Union's command ship, the vessel carrying the High Council's envoy. The Union, realizing the danger, tried to retreat, but it was too late. The humans' railguns found their mark, tearing through the command ship's engines. The vessel drifted, helpless, as the humans closed in. Admiral Hale, his flagship barely holding together, gave the order to board. The humans launched their assault pods, their marines breaching the Union ship's hull. The fighting was brutal, hand-to-hand combat in the narrow corridors of the alien vessel. The Union's soldiers, though well-trained, were no match for the humans' sheer ferocity. The humans fought with a cold, calculated rage, their every move driven by the memory of their fallen comrades. They fought not for victory, but for vengeance. When the dust settled, the Union's command ship was in human hands. The High Council's envoy, once so confident, now stood before Admiral Hale, his blue skin pale with fear. The admiral, his uniform stained with blood, looked down at the alien and spoke a single sentence: "You should have chosen peace." The Union fleet, their command ship captured, their morale shattered, retreated. The humans, though victorious, had paid a heavy price. Their fleet was in ruins, their ships barely spaceworthy, but they had won. They had proven, once again, that humanity would not be underestimated. The war did not end that day. The Union, humiliated and enraged, vowed to continue the fight, but the humans had sent a message. one that echoed across the galaxy. Humanity would not be broken. They would fight, no matter the cost, no matter the odds, and they would win. Admiral Hale, standing on the bridge of his battered flagship, looked out at the wreckage of the battle. The void was littered with the remains of ships, both human and Union. The cost had been high, but the message had been sent. The humans had come in peace, but they would not hesitate to unleash their fury. The galaxy would remember that day, not as the day peace was offered, but as the day humanity proved its strength. And so, the war continued, but the humans, though weary, were ready. They had faced the void and emerged victorious. They would do so again, no matter what the galaxy threw at them, for they were humanity, and they would endure,